BTS went to an Usher and a Chris Brown concert, and it has thrown everyone into a tizzy. This is highlighting the difference between Western fandom and K-pop fandom, and why some people believe that we should boycott and abandon BTS, and why some people can't understand why some fans aren't doing that. I'm also going to highlight another example of this situation, which is going to be between Lady Gaga and R. Kelly. And you may think, I'm too young. Why does that matter? I'll break that down to you in this video, okay? First, let's go ahead and talk about who's Chris Brown, who's BTS, who's Usher, right? Because if you're coming across this video and you have absolutely no idea who any of these three people are, I'm going to break it down to you, okay? BTS is a K-pop boy band group. They are one of the biggest K-pop boy band groups in the media, and they've actually just been in the news due to not submitting no work to the Grammys, okay? Chris Brown is an R&B and hip-hop star who rose to fame in the early 2000s and was subsequently arrested for domestic abuse against Rihanna, who is another pop star who also runs Fenty, the makeup brand if you're into makeup. And he also has allegations of abuse with his past girlfriend, Karrueche. But other than that, those are the only abusive claims when it comes to women. After that, he has gotten into multiple different altercations with different other rapper, R&B, hip-hop stars, and also fans at nightclubs. Usher is a 90s superstar who I think Chris Brown can say he has gotten a lot of inspiration from, but not just him, but also Chris Brown has gotten inspiration from Michael Jackson as well. But Usher predates Chris Brown. That's all you need to know. And he is in the R&B spot. He is a R&B legend in the R&B space. In the Black community, Usher is could be on some people's Mount Rushmore when it comes to R&B stars. Like, they're your shining. They're gonna be your Big Bang. They're gonna be on your. Usher's gonna be on your Mount Rushmore of R&B stars. So now that we have that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about what's going on here. Usher and Chris Brown decided to co-headline an R&B tour. It's been going around the city. It came even here to Cleveland, Ohio. I live in Cleveland, Ohio, for anyone who wants to know. I did not go to the concert because I'm not a fan of Chris Brown. If it was just Usher, I may have gone, but I'm not a fan of Chris Brown. I didn't feel like spending the money to go see Chris Brown perform. That should be just here or there. But BTS flew, while they're doing a whole tour, flew to Toronto to see the tour that Usher and Chris Brown are on. Now, you may ask, what is the connection between these people? May you ask, if you're new here, Usher did a collaboration with Jungkook right before his military enlistment, where he remixed his song Standing Next to You. There is a performance video on it, and Usher has put out there that he did invite Jungkook to perform with him at the Super Bowl, but unfortunately, due to military service, he had to turn that down. Okay, so now let's get into why people are mad. People, rightfully and valid, are mad because Chris Brown has a questionable past. I'm not even gonna hold you. I stopped being a fan of Chris Brown in 2015 after him and Karrueche's relationship ended, and quite frankly, it was a more complicated reason of why I stopped being a fan. I stopped being a fan because, one, I feel like his music was becoming repetitive and I felt like it was nothing new coming out from him. And two, I became a bigger fan of Karrueche than I was of Chris Brown at that time. So for me, I was like, it's easy for me to cut this guy off because I have other people I can listen to, and I'm not that big a fan anymore like I was years ago. And so for me, I cut him off as an artist of mine. It does not mean that I don't listen to Chris Brown. I do want to put that out there. It doesn't mean that I have never listened to a Chris Brown song, and I'm not going to say I have not listened to an album of Chris Brown since 2015. I'm just saying, personally, for me, I'm no longer a fan of Chris Brown, and I do not follow him or his music, and I typically don't even listen to his new music that he releases because, number one, the albums are way too fucking long, and number two, I'm just not interested. Here nor there, okay? So I get valid criticisms, valid criticisms. But the narrative online is coming towards BTS as if somehow they were the ones accused of domestic violence. They're not. They definitely were invited by Usher, and that's the reason why they had artists guest pass. So I'm assuming that Usher invited them to the tour, and they came and they saw and they conquered and they left, right? And let me get into why this is a bigger issue with how Western fandoms look at celebrities versus K-pop fandoms. For K-pop fandoms, if your celebrity gets caught doing something bad, arrested for drugs, beating someone, you're shunned from the industry. You will no longer appear on shows. No one's ever gonna work with you, and it's gonna be a struggle being successful in that type of environment. Well, when it comes to the Western market and Western fandom, number one, we are just conditioned over decades that our artists are flawed. We don't expect our artists to be, como se dice, perfect people, okay? We just don't expect that. We expect them to smoke or do illegal drugs. Hell, Bruno Mars got arrested for doing illegal drugs. I don't see anybody else in this world giving him shit for it. Domestic violence, even though it is a real issue, the Western fandom and Western market is pretty forgiving as long as you rehabilitate yourself. And so far, there hasn't been any allegations as far as Chris Brown and women since about 2015, 2016. So it's been over 10 years, it's been a decade. Now, has he fought other people? Hell yeah. And that's a whole other story for a whole other day, for a whole other video. We ain't talking about what he did in the club. We ain't talking about that, all right? We talking about specifically domestic violence. Now, back to what I was saying is Western fandoms are a lot more forgiving when it comes to their artists. And because of that culture, our media is pretty forgiving for these artists, which means you can pretty much, as long as you come up with an apology and you work on improving yourself, you can stay in the public eye and have a pretty successful career, very long career. And as fans, because we are so conditioned for our artists to be very flawed, imperfect humans, we are able to see people's growth and be like, hey, they've grown, I can go ahead and keep standing them. And that's the difference between K-pop and Western fandom, is that Western fandoms, we are so used to this that we're okay with still standing, still being fans of people who are flawed. Now let's relate this to BTS, because in this situation, BTS isn't the flawed person, Chris Brown is, and they don't want to see BTS with Chris Brown because it sees as them greenlighting what Chris Brown did. But you have to also understand how the Western market works. The Western fandom mindset, just because my artist is seeing a picture with you does not mean that you're friends, does not mean they support you, and does not mean they believe with everything you say and do morally and ethically. I'm sorry, K-pop, deeply they do. It is so ingrained that if you are seen with someone else, you believe and you support them. But in the Western culture, that's just not the same. We don't see that. Just because I'm seeing Beyonce and Nicki Minaj together does not necessarily mean that I think they are friends. They could be, but they're more like colleagues. They're more like your colleague who works with you in Cubicle 6. Like, it's not who may or may not have gone to jail. Like, it's not the same thing. And I think that is the different mindset between a Western fandom and a K-pop fandom, is that we don't hold our celebrities, number one, to the highest of standards. Number two, we are okay and accept that rehabilitation happens and you can still be successful with that rehabilitation. And three, just because you're seen with a controversial figure doesn't necessarily mean that you are a controversial figure, or you think, or you greenlight, or you support the things that they have done in the past or even in the future. So many celebrities have been seen with Diddy. So many people, so many. There's no way that all of them agree with things that he's said and done. There are some who do, but I just don't believe that everyone does, okay? And how do we bring Lady Gaga and R. Kelly into this? So, if you don't know, R. Kelly went to jail in about 2020, 2021 for, hold on, let me Google that. Yeah, so he went to jail in 2022 for violation of the Mann Act and Racketeer Influencing Corrupt Organization Act, and a conviction for the production of child pornography. And he is currently serving 31 years combined sentence at FCI Bunter Medium 1. So, but that's not R. Kelly's first run in. 2019, I should say, was not R. Kelly's first run. He was charged and officially acquitted for child. He was also put on prosecution for child pornography back in 2002, but ultimately he was acquitted of those charges. Now, how does this involve Lady Gaga? Lady Gaga did a song with R. Kelly in 2013. So think about this, right? We have a guy who's been put on trial but acquitted for child pornography in 2002. Another thing with R. Kelly is he tried to marry Aaliyah when she was 15 and 16 years old. If you don't know who Aaliyah is, she was an artist, R.I.P., who tragically died in a plane accident long time ago. But apparently R. Kelly, not apparently, it is known that R. Kelly tried to marry her and forged her parents' signatures, and her parents had to go and get the marriage annulled. So the thing about this all happened before the 2013 song came out, Do What You Want with Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga didn't pull that song till 2019. 6 years later. She didn't pull it at any time during that. And then she also produced the song. They also performed it on TV, all types. She didn't pull it till 2019. There have been rumors about R. Kelly since 2002. We don't sit up here and say that Lady Gaga is a bad person or Lady Gaga endorses child stuff. We don't say that, do we? No, we don't. And that's a prime example of Chris Brown being in a photo with BTS, or BTS going to a concert where Chris Brown is also a co-headliner. BTS does not equal Chris Brown, and Chris Brown does not equal BTS. And just because there's a photo out there does not necessarily mean that they endorse Chris Brown. And here's where the nuance also comes in on why a lot of Western fans who happen to also be K-pop stans are not going to immediately abandon BTS. It's because we're so used to our artists being seen with these controversial figures who they aren't friends of, they just done music with or taken a picture with, and all of a sudden it comes out that these people are now going to jail. We don't equal that. We don't see that for our artists, and we also don't hold our artists to an unbelievable standard. We can appreciate Chris Brown's talent, but we don't have to negate the things that he has done. Chris Brown still has a very successful career. And why does he have a very successful career? Because the fans have forgiven him. Now, have I forgiven him? I'm kind of neutral on this. I don't hate Chris Brown, but I don't necessarily like him. I think I've been removed from him as a fan for so long that I just don't need to come back to him. There's other artists out there, there's other music out there that I can enjoy without having to go back to Chris Brown and his music. But I'm also not going to immediately bash BTS because they were seen in a photo with Chris Brown. I'm not doing that, and I'm not abandoning them. But I will say that if other fans do have a higher standard for their artists, by all means, do what you gotta do, baby girl. Do what you gotta do. But I think the conversation here really does highlight the stark differences between Western fandoms and K-pop fandoms, and how they vastly differ between each other. They aren't the same type of way, and they operate completely differently. And BTS are not operating on a global scale. They are no longer just a K-pop act. They are a global act. They have fans from everywhere. So they're going to take the picture with the controversial people. They're going to take the pictures with the people who may have different political values. And listen, I'm not sitting up here saying we should negate what Chris Brown did, but I will let you know he has not abused a woman in over 10 years. He's done other stuff, but he hasn't abused a woman, at least to my knowledge, and at least it's not to the public's knowledge. from my understanding, there hasn't been any more allegations since then. So he may have reformed himself. I can't say for sure. I don't know Chris Brown. You don't know Chris Brown. We're not in his head. But I will say that there are some things that you can redeem your personality from. But I also believe that if you don't want to be a fan of Chris Brown, and if you don't like the picture, you're not wrong, babes. You're valid. You're valid. You're valid. And your feelings, you're valid. But I just want to give a little bit more emphasis and a little more explanation to people who cannot understand why Western fans like me or like someone else isn't going to completely abandon someone like BTS because they took a picture or went to a concert where where Chris Brown was co-headlining. It just isn't going to happen. What do you guys think? Let me know down below how you think, how you operate, what you're feeling about the situation. Are you one of those fans that are not happy with the picture? Are you one of those Western fans who are on the side of I'm on, where I don't necessarily equate BTS to Chris Brown? Let me know down below. I really want to have a healthy discussion in the comment section about this, because I think it's something that a lot of fans ignore when it comes to global mega stars like a BTS, who are not just a K-pop act anymore. They are a pop group. We just need to drop the K at this point. My name is Ariel. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.